meter tall. No good. Not going to keep anybody out.
Oh,
So to make that wall tall, you simply drop Wall Street.
Okay.
Your quarry. Got it? Everybody on the same page? All right, let's go. Go. You're standing on 2,000-year-old paving stones, which would have been a shopping center. These two 2,000-year-old pillars, which today are supporting the Muslim quarter, 2,000 years ago would have been supporting a roof over our heads, resting on the western wall, for that's what this is. Blocks chiseled out and moved into place by Herod's engineers, fitting right up against the bedrock, which was carved by those same engineers to look like blocks put in place. But this is just designs carved on the bedrock. So that means that all of this is bedrock, wrapping itself around the base of this room. And that raises a question. For the western wall continues further north, and Wall Street stops right here. Had the workers come to work the next day, they would have put boards or maybe a small tree trunk in here, poured water on top. Most wood, when it gets wet, expands, and that would have been enough force to push this off the mountain, which then could have been turned into paving stones. For some reason, that tomorrow never came. The sign says it was apparently because of Herod's death. That's way too simplistic an explanation. What was life like here 2,000 years ago? Well, it could have been amazingly wonderful. Imagine a man and his wife. They grew grapes up in the Galilee. All the kids were married off, they were very successful, and it was time to fulfill their lifelong dream, moving to Jerusalem. They bought this storefront and set up shop selling handmade silver jewelry. They were very successful until one day the wife gets a letter from her sister, who lives in Caesarea by the Mediterranean. My dear sister, every day several Roman boats are landing. Hundreds of Roman soldiers are disembarking. I've heard a rumor they're planning on marching on Jerusalem. Well, she shared the letter with her husband. Maybe you missed the farm, the hills, the valleys, the fields, the grapes. No, he said. Don't be such a scaredy cat. Jerusalem, shalom. It's the city of peace. Besides, our stunning temple. The Romans appreciate beauty. They'll never destroy that. And off he went to morning prayers. Now, Jerusalem at this point was divided into three groups, all of Jews. There were the Sadducees, the Tzdukim. This group was interested in power and money. It's quite easy to write them off because they would do anything necessary to get that power and money. This is a very boring story that's repeated itself many times throughout history. We could just forget them, but I like a nice silk dress for Shabbos, maybe a bottle of fine wine, a beautiful silver and golden candelabra to light, one candle for each grandkid. There are many of them. All those wonderful things cost lots of money. And the Tzdukim know how to get it. Maybe I would have been attracted to their ideas and way of life because I like nice things. Then there were the Pharisees, the Prushim. Now, who were the Pharisees? This was the biggest part of the Jewish nation. These people worked hard during the day. In fact, these would be the people who built the wall. They had many skills. They wanted to build a better tomorrow for their families. And at nighttime, they learned Torah with the rabbis. The rabbis said, yes, Rome has been angered. Bow your heads, pay the taxes, and live. So, the Pharisees stockpiled 21 years' worth of food, enough to withstand any siege Rome could raise, and high time to negotiate. Oh, that speaks to me. Wouldn't you stockpile food if you knew a big blizzard was coming? Or maybe, God forbid, a war? Learning Torah. I love to learn Torah. Working hard. Yes, that feels good. Maybe I would have been smart and been a Pharisee. But then there was that other group. They were divided amongst themselves and agreed basically on two things. We'll never serve Rome. And we'll fight to the last man. To make sure that happened, they burned the food supplies. That group became called the Billionis, which means the burners. I don't think I'd ever do that, but we'll never serve Rome? I'm very independent. Sometimes don't you just want a solution to all the problems now? Well, that's what the Zealots were all about. Maybe they took it a bit too far, though, because they're the ones that caused the destruction. The Romans basically sat back and waited until the Zealots killed each other off. And they didn't just kill each other. Our man, this was still in the future, though. Our man came home from synagogue, his face white as a sheet. His wife said, "What happened to you? You look terrible." He said, "Well, I came out for morning prayers, and there were a few young men discussing politics." Don't you like to discuss politics? And an older man joined the group, and I decided to listen in. And all of a sudden, one of the young men pulls out from under his cloak a knife, and the older man fell dead at my feet. One Jew murdering another in broad daylight over politics. And that's how the Zealots murdered a lot of the population. I'm afraid your sister's right. There is going to be war, a civil war. I can't stop it. Let's run away back to the farm. And that's the fourth solution. Run away and just avoid the whole thing. It would have been impossible back then to know which side was right. Think about that the next time you open up the newspaper. Which way to turn, which way to go. Look back in 200 years and you'll know the answer. Meanwhile, as before they left, there was a little sign hanging on this pillar, on this hook. One side says open. What does the other side say?
Closed.
Closed, maybe for sale. Actually, in Jerusalem, it very frustratingly says tekef hashuv, which translated means, I shall return. And as they turned it over, they prayed, God, please, may we merit someday to return to this wonderful country. In fact, the donkey headed north. We know that's how they did it. Well, one of the Romans using oxen ropes and pulleys. He wrote this book 2,000 years ago. It explains many of the ancient building techniques and can still be bought in modern university bookstores. You're standing right on top of the quarry where all these rocks came from. We're at the level of bedrock. As you look at what's ahead of you, you realize this is bedrock. This is also bedrock. And here, there's a very interesting, almost invisible seam between the bedrock and the rock that was carved out of it. You see that? They just flattened it out. This would have been removed. They would have placed another block on top of this, but this is the bedrock, and that's why you've got that hole there. Now, I've left you with one question. How did that big rock get there? I'm not sure the Truvius's book would be able to explain that one. That's one question I want to send you home with, and one question let's find another one. This question was discovered for us by Charles Warren. To get there, we're going to be walking north past the last bit of the western wall carved out of the bedrock. We're then going to be turning left into an aqueduct. This aqueduct was carved out of the Antonia Mountain by either the Maccabees 2,200 years ago, or maybe in the First Temple period, 2,700 years ago. So if you're looking for something from the First Temple period, this aqueduct might just be it. And at the end of the aqueduct, your second question will be waiting for you.